displaced, right collarbone fracture. You can see him there on the inside of Fermin Aldeguer and Jack Miller. And as probably what Massimo Riva said, a serious misjudgment in the braking zone for that first corner. A real nasty, horrifying looking incident involving the two factory Aprilia riders. Caught up in that melee as well were Johan Zarco, Alex Rins and Miguel Oliveira. But this was horrendous. I mean, to get away actually with just a right collarbone fracture, you feel in many respects Jorge Martin has been rather fortunate. His fourth big injury though of the season. Such a shame. It's been just a horrendous 2025, hasn't it, for the Martinator. The good news though from Aprilia's side is that Marco Bezzecchi is fit to take his place in this 24-lap battle. Well, we know, or it looks to all intents and purposes, we're going to get a Marquez 1-2 in this year's MotoGP World Championship. Can Alex delay the celebrations this afternoon? Let's get the thoughts of Gresini boss Michele Mancini, who joins Jack.
Yeah, of course, that is the big question coming into this one. It's been a difficult weekend for Alex Michele, but do you think you've managed to find enough overnight to stop Mark from celebrating the championship today?
I hope so, but first of all, I hope that Alex could find more feeling than all the whole weekend so far, and I think that we need to, for sure, to find to attack in the first lap the things that we didn't reach yesterday in the sprint, and so try to take more points like always.
Of course, you're in the blue corner this year, but if this is the day that Mark wraps up that World Championship, how proud will you and everyone here at Gresini Racing be to have played such a pivotal part in getting him to this place?
I have to say that it's a really strange feeling because, yeah, more proud because maybe we're still talking about the great comeback in the motorsport ever in history. But I have to think that we are challenging for the World Championship until that is mathematically done with Alex, with an incredible season. So can't be more proud of both of our team that really deserve this achievement because we always dreaming big.
Michele, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Michele Mancini. Who would have thought just 3 or 4 years ago that Gresini Ducati would have played such a significant role in the career of Marc Marquez? Who would have ever thought that he would ever seriously contemplate riding for a non-factory team? Some will say it wasn't much of a punt, it wasn't much of a gamble going to Ducati when they are clearly the dominant force in MotoGP right now. But it's almost unheard of, isn't it? A rider of Mark's stature, a rider of his ilk and past success, going to an independent team. What I love about Mark is the fact that whenever he talks about this potential 7th World Championship, he always pays homage to Gresini Racing and the fact that they were there, they were ready to offer him that career lifeline. They've been such a massive part of this career resurrection for the 93.
I think it was Jerez for Le Mans last year when he spoke to you after finishing on the podium, when he said that it was the start of his second life in MotoGP, to be back on the podium, back competitive, regaining a level of form and performance that he wasn't entirely convinced would return again. So of course, we're not just talking about the broken arm that he suffered in Jerez 2020. Of course, he had 2 episodes of diplopia, that huge high side in Indonesia on the morning warm-up in 2022. And of course, that was an injury that really put Marc Marquez's future in the sport into some jeopardy. He recovered from that. He has taken the kind of setbacks that very few professional athletes have to take and then recover from them to get back to the very top of his profession. Marc Marquez is just over an hour away from completing that journey to getting back to doing what he loves doing more than anything else, and that is winning world titles.
Well, one of Mark's big rivals in the future, be posed by the Shark himself. That's the pizza box. That's all testament to that brilliant celebration that Pedro Acosta made against his former Moto2 foe Tony Arbolino when he won in Mugello in Arbolino's backyard. Yeah, there's plenty of 37 fans out in force, and Pedro Acosta, well, he was pretty strong in that sprint yesterday. Third he was over the line for the Red Bull K10 factory racing team. Of course, he was on pole position here 1 year ago. He crashed out early on in the Grand Prix at the final corner while he was trying to run an early hot pace being set by Pecco Bagnaia. Looking for just his 3rd double podium in MotoGP, isn't he? The 20-year-old Spaniard.
his teammate Brad Binder, who has flown much further under the radar so far this weekend at Motegi. Binder will start all the way back in what is now 17th place, of course, with everyone shuffled up one place on the grid from behind Ayagura. Binder, the Czechoslovakian sprint yesterday, in 12th place. It's fair to say that this weekend hasn't ever really threatened getting a lot better than that for Brad.
There's been so much talk, so much gossip, hasn't there? From the moment that Marc Marquez was confirmed as a factory Ducati rider just after last year's Italian Grand Prix Mugello, about whether he was going to be instantly able to compete for that 7th World Championship. Well, as he puts the helmet and gloves on to start the sighting lap here in Japan, it will just be down to Marc and that factory Ducati to get the job done. Frankie Morbidelli, yes, up, up, up. That is the message as far as the Frankie fans are concerned. Another strong ride by Morbidelli in the sprint yesterday. His 8th sprint top 5 of the season, although it was a rather lonely 5th place. 4 major surgeries on that right upper arm, the humerus bone that he damaged in that crash at Jerez in 2020, since he was last MotoGP World Champion in 2019. The last of those surgeries, of course, was over in Minnesota with world-renowned specialists. That was it. If that operation didn't work out, Marc Marquez reluctantly was going to have to admit defeat. He was going to have to reluctantly call time on his awesome career. Thankfully, for Marc's sake, and thankfully for MotoGP fans all around the world's sake, the Minnesota surgeons pulled off a masterstroke. They got him back to his best, and he's operating once again at the peak of his powers, isn't he?
Essentially, his right arm was dismantled and rebuilt again. That's how serious his succession of surgeries proved to be. Of course, he tried to turn a week on, didn't he, from that Jerez crash at the Andalusia Grand Prix in 2020. Tried to take fine qualifying before he called it a day. That then led to a snowball effect of problems that took him through 2020, 2021, and ultimately 2022. His final Japanese Grand Prix here for Honda, he did finish on the podium in 2023 and burst into tears after that Grand Prix, just to again underline how much Honda meant to him, and in some respects it would feel like the stars aligning if at the home of Honda, Marc Marquez was going to clinch that 7th MotoGP crown.
You can almost feel there's a special tension, a special vibe in the air. It's always a unique atmosphere, isn't it, when you come to a match point scenario in the MotoGP World Championship. Of course, we've become accustomed of late to it all going down to the dramatic final round. 2022, 2023 and 2024, the MotoGP World Championship has been decided in the final Grand Prix of the season. Evidence of just how utterly dominant Marc has been throughout 2025, that here we are with still 5 rounds remaining after this Motegi battle, and he can lift the World Championship. 25 wins so far, 30 podiums. I think it's been a fairy tale. Switch over to the factory Ducati, not even Marc could have expected himself. Well, that is what you call a massive Marc Marquez fan. They've got the full leathers, they've got the replica helmet. Although the 2 Japanese Marc Marquez super fans who over the last few years have come together in full Repsol Honda gear. They were here last year in full Gresini Ducati gear, and now they're here this weekend in full red factory Ducati gear. That is what you call hardcore support. That's what you call loyalty to the 93.
And if they're already here with a replica World Champions helmet prepared, then we know they are seriously connected with the Marquez camp as we now look into the face of Marc Marquez. Just how he must be feeling under that crash helmet right now. He's achieved so much in his Grand Prix career. Of course, this is his 206th MotoGP start, of which he has won 73 of them. It's unlike Marc Marquez to really get nervous, but even he admitted yesterday in the Tito sprint when he came into the first corner with Joan Mir and Pedro Acosta on the inside of him, that there was a little bit of circumspection, a little bit of caution. He wanted to make sure that he got to that first corner in one piece. Of course, there is a Grand Prix to win here today. Just how much is Marc Marquez prepared to risk to try and take the World Championship with a victory?
He just wants this race to start right now. He just wants it to be him versus the competition. the best rider win out. Of course, there's been all the talking for a good number of weeks now. Building and building. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. There was a lot of talk, wasn't it, that Mark might even have a chance to win the championship a couple of weeks ago over in Misano. It was always going to be a part of our 4-race flyaway sequence. He was going to be crowned world champion. But right now, he'll just be happy to let his talking be done on the track, just as he did post-race in Misano, where he mimicked the famous Leo Messi celebration, the Barcelona superstar, the Barcelona FC superhero. And he took off the FC Barcelona shirt in front of the Real Madrid fans in the Bernabeu on March, when he won that 11th Grand Prix of the season in Valentino Rossi's backyard in Misano. Took off those red Ducati leathers and he copied the Messi celebration. Leo did his talking on the pitch. I'll let my talking be done on the track, was Mark's clear message. I think there'll just be a sense of relief, Lewis, just to get this race started, so he can just sort of block out all the chatter, all the talk about whether he will be a 7-time world champion in about an hour's time.
It's what makes these athletes so great, and it's what makes them great is the fact that they don't really focus on anything else other than the job they have to do. Even Marc Marquez, who is so used to having cameras put in his face, people wanting selfies, wanting autographs, having to do all sorts of PR activities, all he wants to do is put the crash helmet on, put on his leathers, fasten up his gloves and go motor racing. And that's what he is about to do this afternoon. Just look at all those ones on the bottom of the screen, the graphic, of course. In terms of Grand Prix Sunday victories this season, Marc Marquez has already taken 11 to go with the 14 sprint wins that he's taken in 2025. There has barely been a weakness in Marc Marquez's MotoGP season of 2025. There have been plenty, unfortunately, for Pecco Bagnaia, his teammate, who will be just 2 places over to Marc Marquez's left on the grid, with Pecco Bagnaia starting from pole. Joan Mir, the 2020 world champion, starts between the factory Ducatis on the front row of the grid. Medium as it stands is the tyre choice for the front row. Pedro Acosta, Fabio Quartararo and Frankie Morbidelli on row 2. Luca Marini for Honda 7th, ahead of Alex Marquez 8th. Has to finish inside the top 9 to have any hope of keeping the title alive beyond this weekend. Bezzecchi 9th, ahead of Ralph Fernandez, Joan Zarco and Fabrice Gianantonio. Jack Miller, of course, promoted up to 13 after Aigua's withdrawal. He has Aldeguer and Oliveira for company. Brad Binder, of course, with Martin moving out of the way, is up to 16th on the grid, ahead of Alex Rins and Taka Nakagami. And Ayat Bastianini, Somkiat Chantra and Maverick Vinales on row 7. And of course, it is worth reiterating, with Agura and Martin withdrawing, just 21 starts.
Inevitably, of course, in this kind of match point scenario, there's been so much talk about Marc Marquez. Let's not forget the likes of Pecco Bagnaia, opposition and a dominant sprint victory yesterday. And let's not forget one of the standout performers of this Japanese Grand Prix so far this weekend. In Honda's backyard, it has been Honda HRC cattle rider Joan Mir on the front row for the first time on a factory Honda yesterday. And he put up a great fight for the podium in the sprint. Can he maybe go one or if not better than 4th place from yesterday? Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Alberto Fucci, for Jack.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant weekend so far for Honda and Joan in particular. So close to the podium yesterday, Alberto. I guess the big question today is, can he go one better and get that podium?
Well, I'm not a magician, I don't know. I wish it could happen, but you know, today's completely different race from yesterday, and I think also the pace will be different. So well, we have to see how our bike react and different tire, and let's see. I mean, it will be tough, more than yesterday, but yeah, I mean, as you said, all drivers have shown a good performance in the weekend, and let's go. They can have a good start and go.
Switch to the medium rear, is that a positive thing for you guys?
I will tell you later, but not the best, but not a disaster. Let's say it like this.
This, of course, could be a special day for Mark. I know you're going to be fully focused on your guys' efforts today, but what are your emotions like with Mark on the verge of completing something quite special?
Well, I mean, it's Mark's story. It's very serious. We don't have time here to talk about it, sorry, but I can only say that the guy deserves everything.
Thanks, Alberto.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. Of course, Alberto Puig he has seen up close and personal. He was right there, wasn't he, in the thick of the Repsol Honda garage to see Marc Marquez produce so many brilliant performances down the years. He was right there when Marc won those 6 MotoGP World titles. Marc Marquez has spoken with nothing but great affection for the job that Alberto Puig did for him through thick and thin at HRC. I think it was probably one of the biggest wrenches for Marc to walk out on Honda at the end of 2023 was because he had such a tight relationship with Alberto Puig. There is downtown, the vibrant, sprawling metropolis of Tokyo. Will Marc Marquez be having some party in downtown Tokyo later on this afternoon? Another person who has seen Marc rise potentially back to the top from rock bottom is his manager, Jimmy Hernandez, and he joins Jack.
Yeah, he does indeed. Jimmy, you've been inside the camp for a very long time. This weekend, a special one. Marc admitting to some nerves yesterday, saying that he felt the weight of expectation. What was he like today?
I mean, it's normal. I mean, that's a good signal. You know, if you have some nerves, it is something that you need to manage. And yeah, we are just, I think, with all the ingredients just on the side, everything is should be smooth, but you never know. I mean, Marc gets for sure, he won't be, you know, really slow. I mean, he will go not to win, I hope, because I'm really making the pressure. Like, please, let's go, let's step by step. It's not important the win of the race, but you know, with an athlete like with a rider like Marc, you never know. And the most important thing is that he feels confident. If he feels confident going, you know, from the starting line path, I mean, we will see. But he's come down, which is the good signal, you know.
This morning, could you tell that it was a big day, or was it Marc as normal?
I mean, of course, it's a bit different. I mean, it's not another GP, just another GP. This is something that it's a bit different, but you know, it's not the first time that he is in this situation, so that's good. And yeah, we're trying just to normalize the situation, to you know, just to try to support a bit that the nerves come a bit down and everyone is you know, on the, you know, on a normal, let's say, a scenario. But of course, there's something, you know, in the stomach that is there. So we'll see how it goes.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks there to Jimmy, part of Marc's backroom team. I'm sure they have tried to do everything possible, keep the same routine, keep the normal routine, but this is anything but a routine normal day, isn't it, as far as Marc is concerned. The biggest comeback. Hard to really argue with that sentiment. Also, some Pedro Acosta fans in amongst the MM93 clan. Just saw there, part of this long recovery process has seen Marc Marquez miss 30 Grand Prix in the last 5 years. He has hurt so much, both physically and mentally. Once again, he finds himself in a position where he can be crowned world champion. Above anything else, this journey back to the top was all just to prove to himself more than anybody that he still had what it takes to fight with the best. He still had what it takes to win in MotoGP, and more importantly, he still had what it takes to win another world championship. You almost get a sense, though, don't you, the way it's gone for Marc in 2025, perhaps the best is still to come.
He feels perhaps a more rounded, complete rider now than he was back in 2019. And 2019, of course, was a Grand Prix season where, outside of Austin, he was first and second in every single Sunday Grand Prix. A crisis was a P2 for Marc Marquez on that occasion. But in 2025, of course, he's got a bit of a self-awareness now in terms of his physical limitations. He knows now that he is not invincible. Going from the back of row 2 then is Frankie Morbidelli for VR46. Can he go forwards from there? Speaking of Jack.
Frankie in the podium fight yesterday after a great turnaround. What's possible today?
Hopefully again a great race and a podium fight.
Good luck, have fun.
Thank you, Raul.
Short and sweet as always from Frankie Morbidelli. He is a man of a few words, isn't he? I'm disappointed I was waiting some more AC/DC lyrics from Frankie.
That's even first to the spot of the national anthem. So Marc, who's been first in just about everything else so far this season, not wasting any time. The anthem's coming up in around about 3 minutes time, so you can see the riders all taking their positions. Well, it's always a rousing and emotional moment here in Japan when the national anthem is performed, so that's coming your way very, very shortly. Marc Marquez, incredibly, in all of the chaos, all the hullabaloo and all the energy on that grid, has been able to find some sanctuary.
He has been here before. He's done it. He's got the t-shirt. He's got the silverware to boot as well. Any further thoughts right now of the 32-year-old Spaniard, as potentially his biggest rival in this upcoming Grand Prix of Japan walks to the pre-race grid ceremony as well. Pecco Bagnaia, who has found finally a magic one fix, it seems, to all of his early and mid-season woes, taking pole position yesterday, followed up by a sprint victory, which I don't think a few of us saw coming after Bagnaia's recent sprint miseries. 13th in Hungary, 14th in Catalonia, 13th in Misano. I don't know what they did at that Monday test at his home Grand Prix Misano a couple of weeks ago, Lewis, but it has just completely transformed the 28-year-old.
Whatever they changed worked a treat. Jack Appleyard did his very best yesterday to try and get that information out of Pecco Bagnaia, but he was very much keeping that information to himself. We just saw Julio Marquez, father of Mark and Alex, in the pit lane with all of the second motorcycles lined up. We can't say with any great certainty that they're not going to be quiet this afternoon, so if we look outside our coin box window, there are still some ominous clouds beginning to loom overhead.
Well, you have to say, at least on the outside, he's looking rather relaxed, cool, composed. And so often in the past has been able to bat off these high-pressure situations, hasn't he? As we get set then for the pre-race grid ceremony. Such a shame, unfortunately, we are missing the home crowd hero at Ayagura. Minute away on the Japanese national anthem. Hiko Nishiguchi will have the honour of performing the anthem under the main grandstand here. And it's just started to get a little bit darker. That cloud is threatening to swallow up this mobility resort Motegi complex, as the Japanese fans then, one and all, get ready. They're all on their feet, standing for the national anthem. Well, we said he looked relaxed, we said he looked calm, cracks a big smile. This we're just, what, less than 10 minutes away now, one of the biggest days of Marc Marquez's Grand Prix career. We'll take a pause then now for the Japanese national anthem.
Formed. And the next noise that will surround this Motegi venue is the sweet sound of 21 MotoGP riders. Starting from fourth amongst them is Pedro Acosta, of course, made his way through to the sprint podium yesterday. What about a repeat on Sunday as crew chief Paul to Athens with Jack?
Paul podium yesterday, and Pedro looks really strong, but this longer distance, I imagine, is going to be, well, a challenge for everyone, but potentially you guys in particular. How is Pedro going to face it?
Yeah, no, I mean, yesterday we did great. You know, every time you get a podium, you need to celebrate these moments. You know, it's very difficult beating those front guys, so to be somewhere close was great. Today we expect a completely different race in the fact of the management and the tyre wear and stuff, so we're ready for that. We understand what we need to do. We just have to execute it, you know. So all about getting the good start again, staying out of trouble the first laps, and then we see how it plays out.
Good luck.
Good chance.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks to Acosta's crew chief, Paul Trevathan. They will be hoping for a double podium to take to Mandalika next weekend. Of course, where Acosta was exceptionally strong over in Indonesia last year. Moment of truth. Judgment Day closing then now, as far as Marc Marquez is concerned. He's had the pleasure of seeing the brilliance of Marc up close and personal throughout 2025. Of course, so often the enemy for Ducati. Close now, though, to becoming just the fourth Ducati rider in history to win a MotoGP World title. What's going through the mind right now of the boss, Davide Tardozzi, is with Jack.
Davide, you don't need me to tell you it's a big one today. How are you feeling ahead of it?
We are relaxed, but we have a mix of strategy, because obviously Pecco wants to show that he's back on in the position he deserves, while on the other hand Marc has to bring home the points to win the championship, so it's a different thing. But I think the opponent today will be very tough, because I'm sure that Bezzecchi will be very strong, and also Pedro.
Do you think Marc will be able to help himself if he's behind Pecco from trying to fight for the win?
Don't know. I think that Marc, first of all, think to the championship, then he liked to win, but today he needs the points for the championship.
Thanks, Davide.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Jack. Thanks to Davide Tardozzi. The message has been loud and clear from the Marc and factory Ducati camp this year. It's not all about the winning, it's just trying to make sure they close out the championship at the earliest possible opportunity. Not a necessity, not disappointing if it doesn't happen here today in Japan. But Marc Marquez standing right on the brink of closing out one of the greatest comebacks we have ever seen. All on Alex. Several different scenarios, of course, at play in this upcoming 24-lap Grand Prix of Japan. The most simplest of which, if Marc either wins this Grand Prix and takes his 100th career success and 12th of the season, or finishes second, well, it does not matter. It's completely immaterial where Alex finishes, because Marc will be world champion.
If all those other scenarios are required, don't worry, we're on top of all of them. But Marc Marquez will be after the simplest and direct route to the World Championship here this afternoon. But it is a fascinating discussion, isn't it, that Jack was having there with Davide Tardozzi about whether Marc Marquez is prepared to win the World Championship in whatever means necessary, in whatever position it requires, or whether he's going to try and clinch it with that 100th Grand Prix win across all classes. In many respects, it's a big day for Pecco Bagnaia to beat his teammate straight up, head to head, to fully confirm that he is back in business.
Well, in his previous 283 Grand Prix starts, 205 in MotoGP, Marc Marquez has had one default setting. It has been all in. Maximum risk for the win. What will be the strategy at play here today? Alex Marquez straight in, out of the points. The checker flag in yesterday's sprint, a big scale as well, when he almost washed out the front end of his Ducati GP24 in turn 9. You feel that all the hard work has been done. So many endearing images over the last few years when you think about Marc Marquez. Sort of slumped over the Armco barrier after his 5th crash of the weekend at the Sachsenring in 2023. That was when he really did start to feel like his career was over at Honda. I remember at the Valencia test, his first taste of the Ducati at the end of 2023. Just that cheeky smile to Frankie Carcetti after that first run of 5 or 6 laps. Right there and then, Mark knew he'd made the right call. He knew he had started that journey back to the top in the MotoGP World Championship, a journey which he could about to be completed here. 24 laps of this Grand Prix of Japan coming your way. On pole position, looking for a sprint and Grand Prix double. That will be some story of giving Pecco Bagnaia history so far in 2025. The Italian then goes from pole. Joan Mir, his first Honda front row, his first front row since 2022. Podiumless is Mir since the Algarve Grand Prix in 2021. But it is the day of reckoning. Is it going to be a magic day in Motegi for Marc Marquez as he looks to crown the 7th World Championship? (1,184 days and nearly 6 years since Marc Marquez won the last of his 6 MotoGP titles in Thailand in 2019. Does just another 40 minutes, 24 laps and 150 kilometres of the Mobility Resort Motegi stand between the Spaniard, completing a comeback surely unrivaled in global sport. Warm-up lap about to get underway here in Japan. This is a day that for so long seemed a distant dream after his injury nightmare began at Jerez in 2020. With a day he thought might never arrive, could end as one of the greatest days of his career, one of the greatest days of his life. The number 93, certainly no stranger to success here at Motegi, is he? Some of the best days of his career have taken place right here in Japan. There was the euphoria of title wins here in 2014, 2016 and 2018, but this will top them all, given everything that Marc's had to endure, both mentally and physically, in the last 5 years. His nearest and dearest watch on. 2,184 days since he last became world champion, as mentioned. A victory which would be the 100th of his career and make him only the 3rd rider in Grand Prix history to reach a century of wins with Italian icon Giacomo Agostini and Valentino Rossi, or a repeat of his 2nd place in yesterday's sprint will be enough to spark what are sure to be incredibly emotional celebrations. It's been some journey, hasn't it, these last 5 years? He thought about stopping back in 2023 as he couldn't stop crashing a Honda left behind in that new Ducati era. But there has been no stopping Marc Marquez in 2025 on board the factory Ducati. No rider has ever reclaimed the MotoGP World Championship after more than a 5-year wait. 14 sprint wins, 11 Grand Prix wins and 30 podiums have moved him to the brink of becoming just the 3rd rider in history to win 7 or more Premier Class titles. He's poised to follow Casey Stoner, Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martinez, the Caddy World Champions, and in our 76-year glorious history of Grand Prix racing, the 32-year-old could be just the 6th rider to win MotoGP titles for 2 different manufacturers, adding his name to the elite and exclusive list with the likes of Jeff Duke, Giacomo Agostini, Eddie Lawson, Valentino Rossi and Casey Stoner. This is it, folks. You are potentially about to witness the comeback to top all comebacks. Marc Marquez just 24 laps away from being in 7th heaven, capturing that elusive 7th MotoGP title. 6 long years it is since his last, back in 2019 when he was victorious in the Grand Prix of Thailand. The green flag clears at the back. Will Marc Marquez prevail here in Japan? Lights out, and we're racing his potential title decider here in Motegi. It's a great start for pole position by Pecco Bagnaia, who flies down towards the first corner, leading the field. Mir has a mistake on the factory on the brakes into turn 1. That's allowed Marc Marquez up into P3. Acosta's been rapid away from the second pro of the grid. He's up in a second. Marlo is third.
Once again, like yesterday, it was a poor start by Marc Marquez, but Mir's mistake led him off the hook to a certain extent. Quartararo passed the 36.2, so the factory Yamaha start is up into 4th.
Mir has had a couple already heart-stopping moments on the brakes going into turn 1 now and there into turn 3. Here's Acosta trying to get through on the inside of Bagnaia on the brakes into turn 5. No way through. He really did show a front wheel though there to the Italian.
Nothing wrong with Pecco Bagnaia's confidence on the front end of the braking there, was there? He had to brake super late to keep Acosta at bay. Acosta potentially recognising that his best opportunity to beat the Ducatis is to get ahead of them early.
Yeah, fight with fire. It took too long, Mark admitted yesterday, to get through on both Mir and Acosta for him to have anything late on for the runaway sprint winner, Bagnaia. There is Mir then, as they go now through turn 9 for the first time. Fabio Quartararo's had a really strong start to this Grand Prix in front of the Yamaha hierarchy. He's up to 4th spot.
Alex Marquez is exactly where he started. He is in 8th place at the moment. The ride that's gone backwards up the line is Luca Marini from 7th. He's now 10th.
Downhill straight we go then for the first time. Bagnaia almost half a second clear of Acosta as we came through the third split on this opening lap. There is Bezzecchi, who's certainly going to be battered and bruised after that horrendous collision with his factory Aprilia teammate Jorge Martin on lap 1 of the sprint yesterday. End of lap 1 in the Grand Prix here in Japan. Bagnaia has had the dream start, hasn't he, to what could potentially be a dream double here in Motegi. He leads over the line by 7/10 of a second to Acosta.
And we'll never know if Marc Marquez would have had the speed to chase and beat Pecco Bagnaia in the sprint yesterday. Maybe we'll find it out today. But what really cost him was getting bottled up behind Mir and Acosta for too long in the sprint yesterday. By the time he got into second place, Pecco Bagnaia was 3 seconds up the road. Mir now attacking on Quartararo, who spent most of yesterday defending from a Honda. This time the Honda's through on the start of lap 2. Mir goes through into 4th place.
Course potentially for successive P4s. He wants more. Can he get more? That'd be the big question. And once again, he looks so nervous, so unsettled in front of that Honda. Oh, Quartararo gets a rather unfriendly tap from Morbidelli. He left the door open, I think, to Quartararo going into turn 5. Morbidelli sees the tarmac, perfectly entitled to do so. And it's been a real, well, that mistake at turn 5 from Quartararo has seen him drop from 4th to 8th.
Yeah, Morbidelli's had his detractors, and rightly so on occasion this season, but he had every right to go for that gap. Quartararo had gone wide, and he's going to go further wide here because Ralph Fernandez is piling on the pain for the 2021 World Champion. Started his lap in 4th, he's now back to 9th.
Mark still unable to find a way through on Acosta. This is almost history repeating itself, isn't it, from the sprint yesterday. Bagnaia checking out the front of this Grand Prix. Look at the advantage he has now. Built up to over a second already. Acosta, massive gap then between the top 2, and Mark just cannot find a way through on the Spaniard ahead of him.
Acosta's out there rating for himself, of course he is, for KTM, but he's Pecco Bagnaia's best friend at the moment in this Grand Prix, and so often when Bagnaia was at his best, he would pull out that early second half advantage and manage it from there. Is Bagnaia about to produce another vintage Sunday performance after returning to form yesterday?
Where has he been? Where has Bagnaia been for the last 5 or 6 Grand Prix? Back in business handsome, isn't he, here in Motegi? As I mentioned, Springer said we'd love to know what they've done to completely galvanise Bagnaia's fortunes.
That was Honda, I think that was Hanafi Gardner's. No, it was Marini actually at the top of the picture going way wide. Marini's lost 5 places into turn 1, so it's been a miserable start for the other factory Honda. Marini now 15th.
Yeah, this was Quartararo desperately trying to keep those behind him at bay. He sensed, didn't he, that Morbidelli was on the inside. No no contact. It was a perfectly legal move as far as Motegi was concerned. He'd have been bitterly disappointed if he had not charged for that wide open space that he had directly ahead of him. In terms of wide open space ahead of Pecco Bagnaia, well, he's got no troubles at the moment, has he, early on here in Japan. Santi Hernandez watches on a course. His current charge, Joan Mir, charging up into 4th place. Of course, he'll be keeping a very close eye on Marc Marquez as well. He was with Marc for all of his 6 MotoGP World titles as crew chief at the factory Honda squad.
Speaking of charging, Marco Betzeki's doing the same here on board the factory of Aprilia. Of course, he will be in a little bit of pain after the events of yesterday when his teammate took him out at the start of the sprint. Bezzecchi, who thought he had the pace on Friday, and it looked like he had the pace to be involved in the battle for the podium, but qualified poorly back in 9th place. He's now chasing Frankie Morbidelli for 5th.
Who were the 2 riders that Davide Tardozzi mentioned in dispatches to Jack on the pre-race grid about threats to Ducati's dominance here this weekend? Acosta and Bezzecchi. And they're living up to that prediction, aren't they, at the moment? We're on board then right now with Bez. He's following Morbidelli on the VR46 Ducati. Acosta and Marca are trying to match the pace now at Bagnaia, which at the moment is a bit of a futile mission. Bagnaia still the fastest rider on circuit with a 1:44.7. Acosta with a 1:44.8 behind him. 1.3 seconds now is Pecco's lead over Pedro.
Luca Marini's got a problem. He's pitted on that factory Honda. I saw him going wide at turn 1 at the start of that 3rd lap. There is clearly something much more serious wrong with Marini's number 10 bike. He's out of this Grand Prix.
It's a real shame. That's going to be his first DNF of the entire season. Oh, that's frustrating. That's really cruel, isn't it, for the Italian here in Honda's home Grand Prix. They're staring down the handlebars and the dashboard. Mystery electrical fault, I'm sure, will be the reason offered by Honda. Not holding their honour right now. As far as HRC are concerned, he's doing a rousing job at the moment. Is Mir still there in 4th place? Here is Bezzecchi. It's going to be a tough old challenge to find a way through on Morbidelli. Can he make it through here into turn 9? No, Frankie just too strong on the front end of that year-old Ducati.
And Alex Marquez is behind that battle in 7th place. And rather than attacking the riders ahead, it looks like he's under a little bit of pressure here from Ralph Hernandez. Here they come into the picture, 73 ahead of 25. If Alex Marquez finishes 7th, Marc Marquez only needs 3 points for 13th place. That gives you an idea of the scale of the problems facing Alex Marquez if he's going to take this title on to Indonesia.
Once again, you can just see how hard Mir is attacking on that factory Honda on the brakes. Wheels have not been in line any braking zone so far in this Grand Prix as far as the Spaniard is concerned. It's pretty spectacular to watch. It's heart in the mouth as far as your Honda are concerned to watch. Title chance, Marc motoring towards 537 points. He's already scoring record-breaking points tally in 2025. We've still got 5 rounds remaining after this Japanese Grand Prix. At the moment, then, Alex just about holding at bay Ralph Hernandez, the lone representation from Trackhouse Aprilia for joining us for the first time. Unfortunately, Ayagura sadly having to withdraw. Pre-race here today in his home Grand Prix.
Bagnaia's got a 1/4 second on the field at the moment. He's just on a 44.587. Personal best from Acosta and Marc Marquez, but they cannot get anywhere near the pace of Pecco at the moment. His lead is fast approaching 2 seconds now.
As we saw yesterday, when you gave him that kind of an advantage in the sprint, where you had no chance, not a player of bringing him back in. Of course, we're double the distance here this afternoon as Bezzecchi coming through. Launches it. He really does launch it, but you just know that Morbidelli was going to try and tough it out. Bezzecchi then finally has got through. That was a real bold move by Bez going through turn 7. You don't see too many passes made there. That was top draw stuff from the Italian.
You know, the Aprilia corner as well. There was some great evidence of that. And he's not a million miles away from the podium battle. Marc Marquez, if anything, looks like he's dropping back towards Mir at the moment on this current lap 5 of 24. Look at the gap up with Sol worth a half a second up to Pedro Acosta, and Mir with a little bit of encouragement up ahead. The 2020 champion chasing who looks like, as it stands, becoming the 2025 champion.
There's just so many vicious hard braking zones here in Motegi. And it's still pretty hot and mild conditions here, despite the threat of rain that's hung around this Japanese venue for much of the day. Front tyre temperature and front tyre pressure was always going to be a crucial factor in this Grand Prix. Is that just something that Mark's having to contend with in the wake behind Acosta's factory KTM? Bagnaia now, 1.7 seconds he is clear of Acosta. Mark Assey's back in the 45s here.
Yeah, Pecco Bagnaia is not the fastest rider on the racetrack. That's Marco Bezzecchi, even with that overtake on Morbidelli, who's already left in his dust. A 44.6 for Marco Bezzecchi. If only he'd qualified somewhere towards the front. It's clear he's got podium pace. He might still catch the podium battle yet.
Hard to think that Mark's really riding tight. He's not really one that's ever succumbed to nerves or pressure. Not that there's really any kind of pressure in terms of the championship. It's not exactly like this is a nail-biting, tense final round decider, is it? And as he's spoken throughout this weekend, it's not a given. It's not a necessity that he wins the World Championship here today. If he stays as is, well, that's exactly what will happen.
Pecco Bagnaia is just too fast, simple as that. This weekend, some of the evidence so far, Marc Marquez hasn't had the pace to beat Pecco Bagnaia, nor in qualifying, nor in the sprint, and at the moment, not in the Grand Prix. But this is a battle over the course of 22 Grand Prix weekends, and that is ultimately what leads to the world champion being crowned. Marc Marquez, ultimately, he said in the build-up to the weekend, didn't he? He said earlier in the weekend, I'd much rather win the World Championship here with a fourth than wait until Indonesia to take it with a victory. He wants to win it at the earliest available opportunity. He's looking like a man of his word right now.
Doing a top job once again in fourth place is Mir. Hasn't been dropped at all, has he, by Mark? There is Bagnaia, your runaway leader. He has really streaked away at the front of this Grand Prix early doors, hasn't he? Bagnaia, 2 seconds he is now clear of Acosta. 44.7 once again from the Italian, who looks so supreme at the moment. Well, sprint yesterday proved that pole position was no fluke, and it looks like at the moment he's proving that the sprint victory was no fluke. We were sort of debating, weren't we, even last night, about whether Pecco Bagnaia was well and truly back to his brilliant best. Well, he is giving us a rather clear and emphatic answer right now. 2 seconds ahead of Acosta.
And growing. Acosta then with that sort of 4/10 of a second advantage over Marc Marquez, who was a little bit hot again there into turn 5. That corner has caused him grief throughout this Japanese Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah, he charged in hot there into 5. That's going to prick up the interest of Mir once again in 4th place. Just a reminder, it's 4 long years, the Algarve Grand Prix in 2021. The last time we saw Mir on the podium, that was, of course, when he was on the bright blue factory Suzuki. What an opportunity this potentially is for Mir to break his duck in terms of podium finishes on the factory Honda. Regardless of whatever happens from this point onwards, it's been by far his best weekend back, Chelsea. 2nd on the grid, 4th in the sprint, and right in the podium battle in the Grand Prix.
It won't be lost onto Mir. It certainly is not lost onto Mir. What happened to him yesterday when Marc Marquez dive-bombed him into turn 10? He said he'd quite happily take the opportunity to dish out some revenge punishment on Marc Marquez here this afternoon. We can't rule it out at the moment.
Certainly can't. At the moment, you have to say it looks like a relatively comfortable 3rd for Mark. I mean, he hasn't been put under any serious pressure from Mir. Mir's not been able to maybe offer a block pass back of his own. I thought we saw it turn 10 in the sprint yesterday. Alex Marquez has just riding his fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far with a 1:45.088. That was about a 10.5 quicker than Mark. Only 2 riders currently on track then now here in Motegi that are keeping themselves in the 44s. That's your leader, Bagnaia, who's still 2.1 seconds clear of Acosta, who in turn also heads back in those 44s.
Yeah, so Marc Marquez consecutive laps down in the 45. Is he just giving his front tyre a little bit of a breathe, a little bit of a rest, just let the pressure, let the temperature just come back down a little bit and attack again later on in the Grand Prix? Of course, we have seen Pedro Acosta already this season fade late on. It's definitely not an entire issue in terms of a different option. Everyone is on the medium front, medium rear combination. Of course, we saw Acosta in Barcelona the last time he looked like a genuine podium threat. Go for the soft rear tyre and plummet down the order. At least he's on the same option as all those around him this time.
Yeah, here's Acosta managing that sort of 0.6 of a second gap back to Mark quite beautifully. At the moment, we're charging up now towards turn 10. Mir will not be close enough to dish it back out a block pass, which Mark made him right here. 1 gear, 1st gear corner down to 70 kilometres an hour. And you really start winding up the power through that seamless shift gearbox up to 6th gear briefly, about 315 kilometres an hour. Real tyre was in the air on that factory Honda. kitchen sink's coming right now, isn't it, from Mir? The battles for that podium is great to watch.
Well, already this season, Joan Mir has had plenty of double DNFs. I think he might be prepared to risk another DNF this afternoon if a podium is possible. As you say, it's been so long since the 2020 World Champion has stood on a MotoGP podium. What a place it would be to end that run. As we go across the line now, once again, Bagnaia is just hammering away in the 144s, 2.6 seconds up the road at Longo.
Yeah, nobody's going to be able to accuse Joan Mir of a lack of effort or not running right on the ragged edge on that factory Honda in this Grand Prix. He's being told here early to go to mapping 2, so maybe already altering the electronic settings, maybe a bit of traction control just to manage the wheel spin.
Well, Alberto Puig was asked by Jack on the grid, wasn't he, whether the switch to the medium rear would be a good thing or a bad thing for the factory Hondas. It wasn't exactly a confidence-inducing answer, was it, from Alberto on the grid? Perhaps would have been slightly happier had the soft rear been the option. It simply wasn't on this afternoon. Well, it's been quite a warm weekend here in Japan. We're not even at half race distance yet, so Mir has to be mindful that he doesn't take too much getting suckered into a battle with Marc Marquez if it's not ultimately the battle he's fighting today.
I wonder what the Spanish word is for loose, because that's exactly what that factory Honda is right now underneath Mir. Further back then, Retseki in the 5th place. Morbidelli inside the top 6. Alex is 7th. Marc Marquez once again just in hot. He's had issues, hasn't he, sort of in those hard braking zones when you're sort of dropping all the way down to those first, second gear corners, which there's an abundance of here in Motegi. Alex Marquez 7th, Raul Fernandez 8th, Quattararo and Zarco inside the top 10. Binder has just taken 11th from Fabio Di Gianantonio, who's having a pretty average weekend on the VR46 Ducati. Points for Aldeguer, Bastianini and Jack Miller as it stands right now. Lap 10 of 24 is what we're on right now, approaching the halfway point of this Japanese Grand Prix. Match points looming for Marc Marquez. It doesn't look like he's going to be crowned world champion from the top step of the podium, does it? Because his teammate Pecco Bagnaia at the moment is just in a race of his own. There was a replay of the mistake Marc made up into the first gear, turn 10. Very, very quickly, Bagnaia's lead will be over 3 seconds for the first time in this Grand Prix.
And if Marc Marquez thought he had the pace to go after Pecco Bagnaia, surely he would have done something about Acosta by now. We saw how he just dive-bombed Joan Mir because he knew he had to get off after Acosta to take that 2nd place, but he seems relatively happy at this stage to sit there. Either he's not got no pace to get close to Acosta, or he hasn't got the appetite to at this stage of the race.
Well, all of his 6 previous MotoGP titles have been claimed from the podium 3 times. He has been victorious to wrap up the world title. Looking like that's going to be the case on this occasion. But it's not just about today, is it? It's all about the bigger picture as far as Marc is concerned. It's been pretty stable, hasn't it, really, behind Pecco Bagnaia, who is now, for the first time in this Grand Prix, as we suspected he would do, very, very quickly establishing that advantage at over 3 seconds. Not really much going on in terms of passing in this battle behind him. Marc just cannot get close, can he, to Acosta at all. Acosta's doing a real strong job there to hold on to this 2nd place. He has not given Marc a sniff at taking that 2nd away from him.
And only one previous 2nd place this season, Pedro Acosta, which was 2nd to Marc Marquez in Hungary. Cast your votes right now for the ride at the race. Scan the QR code and make your vote. This is as close as Marc has been, though, for quite some time. But when we get into the braking zone, Pedro Acosta able to break that a little bit later.
It's been a classic display, hasn't it, from Pecco Bagnaia, right out of his playbook. Get the pole position, get the old shot, and then clear for the front. Finally then, finally on lap 11 of 24, Marc has made the move. Acosta just trying to run that tighter inside line as they stream through the double left-hander of turn 3 and 4. It's taken the best part of 11 laps and 3 corners for Marc to finally find himself up into P2.
It's interesting to see what Joan Mir now could do in this particular battle, because he said yesterday that the tiny lost battle with Marc Marquez cost him the opportunity to potentially chase down Acosta and take a podium in the sprint. He hasn't had that problem this time. He's been behind Marc since the first lap was completed. So now that Acosta has been overtaken by Marc Marquez, is he soon going to come under pressure, the 37 from the 36?
Looking so tense, so apprehensive. All they can do is watch on. Of course, Marc's father, Julia, his girlfriend, Gemma Pinto, they have been at his side while he's returned back to the glory days. Again, looking a fraction offline there as he ran into that turn 10. He is though starting to break away from Acosta immediately.
Bez is getting stuck into this now. Look at the back of the picture, just off to the left-hand side. It's now a four-way fight, or maybe a three-way fight for third. We'll see if Marc Marquez just disappears off at the road from Acosta. It's already 4/10 of a second through 4 of the way through this lap. But Acosta is about to have company from both the Honda and from an Aprilia.
He is going to get busted for cruelty to Michelin full tyres in him very, very soon. Once again, you saw him there. But the rear tyre was making contact on that run down into turn 11. So having made his way through on Acosta on the previous lap at turn 3, straight away Mark was able to get the hammer down and find a low 145. Immediately he was nearly 7/10 clear of Acosta. Acosta having lost that position on the last lap right here was actually in the 46s for the very first time.
So Bezzecchi 45.5 and Morbidelli, so just flying in 45.4. You just saw the flash of fluo yellow on the Real 46 Ducati just at the top of the picture, who's not completely out of this battle either, but Bezzecchi perhaps the main threat here. He certainly had the superior pace outside of the factory Ducatis in this Grand Prix, but he's perhaps falling into that sort of holding pattern now up behind Mir and Acosta. Is Bezzecchi still in this run for the podium? So you can't rule him out yet.
Such a head scratcher. It's so puzzling, isn't it, to really fully understand just how in the space of a fortnight Pecco Bagnaia has gone from the misery of Misano to one of the best weekends of his Grand Prix career. A record-busting lap to take pole position yesterday in Q2. A brilliant start to finish victory in the sprint. He's going to, well, it looks like, barring any disasters, barring any late collapses, going to have a start to finish victory in the Grand Prix. As we mentioned at the start of this race, where on earth has he been for so much of 2025?
Well, let's see if he can stay in this kind of vein of form for the end of the 2025 season. Of course, we've got the Indonesian Grand Prix coming up in a week's time, a Grand Prix that Pecco Bagnaia won from 13th on the grid a couple of years ago with the Thailand and Sepang to come. Of course, a memorable victory for Bagnaia in Sepang last year before the doubleheader in Portimao and Valencia still to come to close this season off. If Bagnaia can end this season in this kind of form, then he can genuinely look ahead to 2026 with some positivity.
It's taken 2 laps for Mark to build already a second lead over Acosta, who at the moment just does not have the pace to go with the 2 Ducatis ahead of him. He's got it all on as well here to keep Mir and Bezzecchi at bay behind him. Once again, just as it was in the sprint yesterday when he had a very lonely ride to 5th. It looks like, as it stands right now, another lonely experience here in Motegi in 6th place for Morbidelli. He's a couple of seconds almost clear of Alex. Alex has not been able to break Raul Fernandez at all. Those two have been locked together for the majority of this Grand Prix. Quartararo, who was briefly 4th after a lightning start, is currently 9th, had a fellow Frenchman Zarco. Binder 11th, Gian Antonio 12th, Aldeguer, Bastianini and Miller further down, still keeping themselves inside the point scoring place, although Miller's got his hands full because Rins, Nakagami and Oliveira are not too far behind the Aussie.
Just as we saw yesterday, once Marc Marquez gets himself into clear space and empty tarmac, he's got Pecco Bagnaia's pace, or at least at this stage. Bagnaia, though, surely just managing from here with a near 4-second lead, but they both exchanged 45 zeros on the last lap. But Marc Marquez, I don't think he'll care too much when he takes the checkered flag if he wins the World Championship, as he's on course to do. But in terms of taking either sprint or Grand Prix victory, Marc's been as quick as Bagnaia in clear space, just hasn't had much of it.
Starting to close in here on Acosta, isn't he? Through this final sector, through Victory Corner we go. It looks like a nailed-on victory right now, doesn't it, as far as Bagnaia is concerned. And once again, slightly faster on that last lap than his Mark. Acosta really is struggling at the moment. He's in a little bit wide, isn't he, going through that complex, the 2 right-handers of 1 and 2. He's got some serious trouble brewing here as Acosta, because Mir and Bezzecchi are waiting to pounce.
And he's got a rider right behind him who will be not short of motivation. Johan Mir will be absolutely desperate for a podium finish, and a podium finish earned entirely on merit if he is able to take it. Of course, we did see John Zarco take a victory bond earlier in the season in a rain-affected French Grand Prix. And then, of course, a podium finish in Silverstone, and what was a slightly strange, curious afternoon. Not taking anything away from those results, but there's no question there's been no assistance for Honda here this afternoon. This is on pure pace from Mir.
He's going for it in 2.7, and he goes. Yeah, Acosta looks like he's really struggling at the moment with grip on those Michelin tyres, doesn't he? Joan Mir then does fight his way through up into third place. The home crowd are loving this as we have a Honda on the podium potentially here in the Honda-owned Motegi circuit. That was a lovely move. Mir set that up brilliantly. Attacked hard on Acosta on the brakes in 2.5 and then had much better corner speed.
Going.
Yeah, Acosta's really struggling. Acosta's got massive problems to deal with here. He's got a long time, 10 laps remaining here in this Motegi battle. It could be a long old 10 laps as far as Acosta is concerned. But this has been utterly brilliant by Mir.
Early on in the Grand Prix, can't say that Pedro Acosta's got an unblemished record of managing tyres to the end of a Grand Prix. KTM certainly stronger in sprints than they have been in Sunday Grand Prix, and we're seeing that again here. Look at the distance already that Mir has been able to pull out. But Acosta once again fighting a rearguard action. This time the rider queuing up behind him is the Aprilia of Marco Bezzecchi.
They've not had a dry race podium, the factory Honda team, since the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix all the way back in 2021, when of course they had a double podium with Marc Marquez leading home Paul Espargaro. Whoever thought we'd ever say that? Oh, what's going on with Bagnaia? Bagnaia's got smoke. What's going on here? There's smoke coming off the rear of Bagnaia's factory Ducati. There's something just rubbing on that rear tyre, and there's clear signs of smoke, wasn't there? On the right-hand side of Bagnaia's Ducati, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on this one. As he was going through the double right-handers of 3 and 4, yet another puff of smoke there. It's just something, well, we're hoping there's something just catching. A shake of the head from Davide Tardozzi, because this would be a heart ache. This would be so cool if there's a tech issue which could threaten Bagnaia's Japanese Grand Prix dominance.
Something is coming out of the exhaust. It's coming from elsewhere on that Ducati, but he's still extending his lead. Still going very quickly at the moment is Pecco Bagnaia, so it's not something that he should be worrying about too. It's from the right-hand side. Is it coming out of the exhaust? It's looking away. So at the moment, it's not slowing Pecco Bagnaia down, as his lead is now back up over 4 seconds, but perhaps something for the Ducati squad to keep an eye on.
Well, he's smoking the field at the moment, no question. That is Bagnaia. But there have been a few nervy faces, a few gut-wrenching moments inside that factory Ducati garage as they saw the same images as what we did, as now Bezzecchi goes on the inside of Acosta. Acosta can do all he wants to try and lean on Bezzecchi to force a mistake from the Italian. That's not going to happen. Bez just too good on the front end of that Aprilia. Down the hill into turn 11. So Acosta then now in quick succession, having been second for so much of this Grand Prix, now sees himself punted back into 5th.
Bagnaia still did a 45 through, even with smoke coming out of his Ducati, so whatever's going on, it ain't slowing him down yet. We have 9 laps to go in this Grand Prix, so there's nerves now on both sides of the Ducati camp. Can Marc Marquez secure the World Championship, or will Pecco Bagnaia's Ducati keep running?
It doesn't look like it's having any kind of impact, any effect on his pace at the moment. On the brakes he goes into turn 5. A massive advantage he has over Marc. 4 seconds is the gap between the 2 factory Ducatis. Jimmy Hernandez, Marc Marquez's manager, looking on. Girlfriend Gemma Pinto, side by side, a constant companion to Marc. Jose Luis Martinez, his great friend. Of course, they've been together for so many years. Look at the tension etched all over the face of Davide Tardozzi. I think he's looking for a big screen just to say, has that smoke gone? Has it stopped? Please say it has.
There was another little puff of smoke there, I think, as he rounded turn 7, but it's not exactly signs of a fire in there. There is no smoke without fire, as the old saying goes, but at the moment Pecco Bagnaia, his Ducati is running absolutely fine. And of course, in terms of the World Championship, we know Marc Marquez is on course to clinch it. Pecco Bagnaia potentially reviving his chances of finishing runner-up to Marc in the World Championship today.
I'll tell you what, Mir has locked and loaded here for that podium. He's a mile clear of Bezzecchi. What a weekend potentially this is going to be for Mir. A first factory Honda podium incoming for the Spaniard. It will be just his 14th podium in MotoGP. He's had to wait 4 long years for it. Times 4 very long barren years as he joined Honda, probably their lowest ebb in 2024.
It's the one thing Ducati have to hope doesn't happen here, is that the smoke coming out of Pecco Bagnaia's Ducati necessitates a black and orange flag. from the race direction in the FA MotoGP stewards, because of course, if you get that, you've got to park it and pull into the pits. Morbidelli parks at the inside now of Pedro Acosta, who of course was in second place for the first half of this Grand Prix. Second has now become sixth.
Pedro in the whole world of planning right now, isn't he? He's just a bit of a passenger at the moment on that factory KTM. Tries to respond to the move made by Morbidelli. We have to go somewhere to outbreak Frankie on that run down to turn 5. Let's check the gap now between Acosta and Alex. That's only a second, so there might be a top 6 in the offing here for Alex as well.
Just another opportunity to sing Joan Mir's praises. He just did a 1:45.1. He's the fastest rider now on the racetrack. Marquez has just been given a track limits warning. Something else to occupy his mind. What also might be occupying his mind is the fact that Mir just took 3/10 out of him.
Well, we've talked about these green shoots of recovery over the last few Grand Prix. As far as Honda are concerned, they've been trying new parts of RT2 and 3B, like wedding at a Convetti. At a wedding, I should say. There has been so many upgrades, electronic upgrades, chassis upgrades, swing arms, you name it. There's been so many new components fitted through that Honda. Each one of them has been a step forward in performance. And it's all coming to fruition here. What a place to do it as well if Honda are to return to the podium as a factory squad, of course. Johan Zarco has already been a race winner for HRC this year. Mir, well, he's under no pressure whatsoever. 2.4 seconds clear he is of Bears, who once again is both faster than Bagnaia and Mark ahead of him. He can forget about Bagnaia, but he's still going on potentially in terms of Mark. That gap's down to just under 1.3 seconds.
Acosta's dead hasn't continued to get worse. Might get even worse on this lap. Look at Alex Marquez closing up behind him. Acosta did a 1:46.9. He is now the slowest rider on the circuit. So big are his problems. Okay, he's been overtaken by Morbidelli on the last lap. But Acosta now reversing back towards Alex Marquez. And up the road, just up the picture there, is Raul Fernandez, who might catch him too.
Yeah, Acosta's tactic obviously was right. Let's just go hell for leather. Let's just go gung-ho, full gas at the start of this Grand Prix. Try and keep ourselves in the early podium battle, which he did, to be fair. And then try and manage the grip at the end of the race, which at the moment is not going to be mission accomplished as far as the Spaniard is concerned. There's going to be so many great stories at the end of this Grand Prix. The resurgence, the back to business Bagnaia, well, that's clearly in full working order, isn't it? And he's going to complete the treble here shortly. Mark will be crowned MotoGP World Champion, barring any late dramas. And Joan Mir, another great story to be told in this Japanese Grand Prix of 2025, as he looks well set for that podium. They're very, very comfortable P3 at the moment.
Mark did feel under any threat from Joan Mir for second place. He responded to that. He's now opened that advantage up by a quarter of a second, and through the first 3 sectors of this 18 lap, he's actually also taken a bit of time out of Pecco Bagnaia, who's relentless race pace in this Grand Prix. It's been high 44s and now very consistently in the low to mid 145s. Marc Marquez 2/10 quicker, but it's way too late where that's concerned, as Alex Marquez now begins to do what the other riders doing, as Costa sails way off the racetrack. Just could not slow that KTM down. He's lost much more now than 6th place.
Which goes from bad to worse, isn't it, right now, as far as Acosta is concerned. He's got some impressive off-roading skills, though, to be fair to him there, managing a 300 horsepower MotoGP bike through what is some very deep gravel on the outside of that first corner. But Acosta then has now dropped him back behind Maverick Vinales, was it?
Yeah. Even further than that, potentially. Mate, you're out to the back of the field now. We're right on board with Alex Marquez, and I thought finally Pedro's braking late. Turned out he's braking way too late.
Well, we're all flying to Indonesia tomorrow. I think Acosta was trying to beat us all to check-in, wasn't he, there? Way off the track going into that first corner. He has indeed returned behind Maverick Vinales, so he has dropped down to dead last. That smoke seems to have cleared. No dramas at the moment for Bagnaia. Of course, his one and only previous Grand Prix success this year. Well, that was a gift-wrapped present from Mark over at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Mark was charging right at the front of that Grand Prix with a 2-second advantage when he crashed out of contention and allowed Bagnaia to take victory in round 3. Who would have thought there? Was it Smokey's back?
That time.
That Smokey's back. Who would have thought after that third round when Bagnaia was victorious that we'd have to wait until late September before his next win? Well, that's clear. That's the biggest
point we've seen so far.
we have seen. That is at its worst, no question about it.
Still doing 45.5s, in fairness to Pecco Bagnaia. 5 more laps for that Ducati to hang on. And Ducati must be thinking, as much as there's going to be an almighty party, whatever happens today, for Marc Marquez in the World Championship, surely everyone at Ducati with a heart will be thinking, surely Pecco's not going to be denied in this kind of fashion.
Yeah, I bet Mark's just closely monitoring that situation as well. Seeing a smoking bike in front of him, he's going to be thinking, hang on a minute, let's just hope that there's nothing, no fluid going to be dropped. Well, Bagnaia completely oblivious to what is happening under the back of his right leg at the moment. The bottom exhaust on that factory Ducati. Now smoking once again quite significantly on the right-hand side. Hasn't knocked him out of his rhythm at the moment, has it? The gap has come down to 3.1 seconds. As we said, I mean, Pecco will be completely unaware of what's happening underneath him.
He's having way too much fun at the moment, dominating this Grand Prix. Surely not at this stage. He's going to be denied in what would be heartbreaking fashion for Pecco Bagnaia on the best Grand Prix weekend of his 2025 season. In fairness, there haven't been many other competitors for that particular prize. He deserves to win this Japanese Grand Prix, and barring a complete detonation of that Ducati engine, he is 4.5 laps away from it.
Down the hill then, Bagnaia goes just over 4 laps of this Japanese Grand Prix remaining. What a weekend it's going to be for the factory Ducati team. Pole position with a 1:42.9 from Bagnaia yesterday. On course for a 1-2 in both the sprint and the Grand Prix. And of course, Marc Marquez on course for world title glory. Gigi Dell'Igna here, just talking to Gigi is MotoGP technical director Danny Aldridge. Taka Nakagami's gone down late on here. Nakagami then has crashed out of 15th place.
As I mentioned, if they get a black and orange flag out to Pecco Bagnaia, he's got to pull off the road and park it, and that would of course cost him Grand Prix victory. That was Nakagami running on into the gravel trap. He's essentially going to get buried there in the gravel and drop it on his side. Bagnaia did lose 4/10 to Marc Marquez on that last lap, but as mentioned, if race direction step in and say that you're a danger to other competitors with smoke coming out of your bike, that would ruin Pecco Bagnaia's celebrations today.
Yeah, and that engine at the moment is still alive, but it's clearly dying a slow death at the moment. I don't think he'll be able to use that one maybe next time out in Mandalika. Are we going to get a dramatic late plot twist here in Motegi? It would be the cruelest of cruelest blows, wouldn't it, as far as Bagnaia is concerned, because he has ridden an immaculate, perfect Grand Prix so far, made the perfect launch away from that pole position, and let's be frank, he has never really been troubled at all in this Grand Prix, has he?
I think what will determine race direction's decision is whether any fluids come out along with the smoke. Clearly there isn't at the moment, because surely we'd have known by now, because riders will have fallen off on it. So clearly at this stage, it's only smoke, not fluids, coming out of the Ducati. If that changes, then Pecco Bagnaia might get pulled off the road.
You can understand why the race direction and the tech staff behind the scenes here have got some concerns about what's happening underneath Bagnaia. There's nothing wrong with his pace. His pace isn't slacking off at all. It is a little bit because that's, of course, he's on well-worn tyres and he's just managing the gap at the front.
Marquez is now doing 45.1s in second place, taking half second a lap out of Bagnaia. That's not going to take back. That's a World Championship point for the performances he's put in so far this weekend.
Would it have been a different story had he nailed the start? Or would it have been a different outcome had he not taken, 11.5 laps to get through on Pedro Acosta? Well, Marc Marquez is not going to care one bit, is he? Because right now, he can tour to that 7th World Championship. Here is Bagnaia, your race leader. Smoke billows once again out of the exhaust on the factory Ducati. Pops a little bit of a wheel as he grabs a handful of throttle out of that final corner. 2 laps to go then here, and it's a 2-second lead that Bagnaia takes into this lap 23 of 24.
Who's more nervous at the moment? Is it Gemma Pinto in the Ducati box? Is it Gigi Dall'Igna? Is it Davide Tardozzi? They're all watching on for very different reasons. So we're watching 2 factory Ducatis with their own various issues to think about in the final couple of laps. Marc Marquez at this point now with 2 laps to go. Surely it's going to be a test of his concentration and a test of his emotions. Surely now he's thinking about what he is on the verge of accomplishing.
He's on the verge of accomplishing greatness. He's on the verge of accomplishing the greatest comeback in history, isn't he? You can see the trails of smoke from Bagnaia's Ducati there, just in the tunnel as Mark powers through turn 6, through now the left-hander of 7. That gap is now under 2 seconds. Don't think we are going to get any late fireworks. Don't think we're going to get any late drama in terms of the victor here in Japan. But what is not up for any debate, what is it, 2,184 days since he was last world champion. 71 months and over 300 weeks since he was last in this position. Marc Marquez very, very shortly, less than 5 kilometres away from a 7th MotoGP world title. Take nothing away as well from the rider who's going to complete the podium places here today, surely. Joan Mir has been sensational. He's on course for a first on the podium. We're about to start this last lap here in Japan.
And somewhere watching back in Spain will be the current and about to be outgoing world champion, Jorge Martin, who unfortunately is not in a position today to hand the crown over to Marc Marquez. But that is what is about to happen. 1 more lap away from the completion of one of sport's greatest comeback stories.
Last lap underway then here in the Japanese Grand Prix. Comeback almost fully loaded for Marc Marquez. He has a good long look over his left shoulder. He will not barely see Joan Mir. What must be going through the mind of Marc Marquez right now? What a story his is. A story straight out of Hollywood, isn't it? A triumph of the human spirit in many respects over adversity. His own refusal when the odds stacked against him seemed insurmountable to throw the towel in. He might have lost 4 years of his career after Jerez 2020, but he lost none of the hunger, lost none of the desire, lost none of the speed, and lost none of the belief, did he, Marc Marquez? Through turn 7 he goes then now on this last lap, halfway around one of the biggest laps of his career. He just simply would not give up, would he? He simply would not be beaten. Jerez changed him, but it did not defeat him. There's been the surgeries and setbacks, tears and fears, a journey of recovery and discovery, a career reborn at Ducati as he reinvented himself as a person and a rider. Resilience matched by pure brilliance. There have been countless dark days and dozens of doubts, but there can be no doubt that we have witnessed a genius return to the peak of his powers in 2025. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Monday sporting titans who've been hailed for producing amazing comebacks. Now Marc Marquez surely has to be mentioned in the same breath. From all the pain to the pantheon of global sporting icons, Pecco Bagnaia will win the Japanese Grand Prix, but from career-saving surgery in Minnesota, back to the top of the podium Motorland, the crowning glory here in Motegi is the comeback to top all comebacks. Marc Marquez is the 2025 MotoGP World Champion. He hit rock bottom, but he's risen to the top once again. And clinches his 7th MotoGP World Championship. Now the emotion, all the tears will come flooding out. He hasn't done it. Comeback loading, comeback fully loaded. Overcome by emotion. What a story has been as far as Marc Marquez is concerned. He laps up his first World Championship in 6 long years. One of the first riders to congratulate him is a person who has seen all of the dark times that Marc has gone through since Jerez in 2020. I think Marc himself has said without Alex by his side, he would not have completed this journey. This is going to feel immense. This is going to feel like the weight of the world has been lifted off his shoulders, because finally, after 6 long years, we can say once again in the same sentence, Marc Marquez, MotoGP World Champion.
He's made a career out of winning world championships. But through all the dark days of surgeries, of broken arms, of diplopia, he never thought this day would come again. You can hear him screaming under his crash helmet. A day he never thought would come again. From career oblivion, it felt like, back in 2020, to the rarefied air of greatness once more. A magnificent 7th world title, the undisputed champion of MotoGP in 2025 is Marc Marquez.
He's done it. He's done it the hard way. Nothing will ever be able to take it away from such an amazing comeback. I'm sure he can't quite believe it himself. There were times in those 5 years, your mind goes back to the Sachsenring Grand Prix in Germany in 2023, where he had the 5th crash of the weekend, the morning warm-up session, slumped over the trackside Armco, beaten, destroyed, almost pushed into retirement by that unruly Honda. Even the genius, mercurial talent of Marc Marquez could not keep Honda at the front of MotoGP battles. He wanted to enjoy racing again. All the injuries had seen him fall out of love with the sport that he has loved since he was able to walk and crawl. But now Marc Marquez stands tall as the world champion once again. Ducati's 4th world champion with Casey Stoner, Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Gigi Dall'Igna, as we can hear the screams once again, loud and proud from the new world champion. Down to you, Jack.
Gigi, you moved heaven and earth to have Marc on your motorcycle in 2024. For so long, he stopped you from winning the world championship. Now he's just won it on your bike. How do you feel?
You know, I feel fantastic. You know, I'm really, really happy for all the team, for him, because he did a fantastic job to recover for him injury, and so, you know, I'm really, really happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jack. Thanks to Gigi Dall'Igna, who made that call, didn't he, himself? When there was all those discussions behind the scenes. Martino Marquez for the prized factory Ducati seat in 2025. A tough decision, but one right now which has been fully vindicated by the number 93. The 32-year-old Spaniard then does indeed become the 6th rider to win a MotoGP title for 2 different factories. Just listen to that list of names: Jeff Chu, Kenny Lawson, Casey Stoner, Valentino Rossi and Giacomo Agostini. What a story. What a journey has been, not just for Marc, but all of those close to him who have seen him suffer so much in recent years.
Grazie. Devo fare?
You can hear the emotion. You can almost feel the tears running down his face. What a moment. What a rider. What a talent. What a world champion. Back to his brilliant best. And now it's time for the celebrations and the party to begin.
A whole life lost by a number. How many goals? How many victories? How much are you worth? And they reduce it to a number. But a number can't touch behind the number, there's more than a title. There's more in the field, more than something sexy, more than a heart of himself.
is Jose Luis Martinez. One of Mark's real close confidence. He's been at his side for over a decade. Here comes the world champion's bib for the first time in 6 years on the red Ducati, now at the end of the red carpet. And it's time to paint Motegi red, isn't it? As Marc Marquez toasts World Championship success once again.
Competing and winning is his oxygen, and Marc Marquez can breathe again. He's got the taste for competing, and he now has that sweet taste of winning. The numbers don't even come close to telling the story. It is much more than just a number. 7 MotoGP World Championships, 9 Grand Prix World Championships after his dominant runs in Moto2 and 125s. One must be an overjoyed Davide Tardozzi with Pecco Bagnaglia's victory today and Marc Marquez's title glory. Davide Tardozzi is speaking to Jack.
Davide, I think more than a number sums it up perfectly. The comeback is complete.
It's the perfect day. Win the champion here in Japan, and having Pecco back like he did yesterday and today is something amazing. It's something that we can't even dream, and I think that it's something that we will keep in the heart and in the mind forever.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
He has certainly won the hearts and minds of so many MotoGP fans, hasn't it? Now in history, in terms of Premier Class titles, only Italian icon Giacomo Agostini has won more than Mark. He moves level now on 7 with Valentino Rossi. A magnificent 7. He's in 7th heaven right now. Is the number 93. He's got the special world champion bib. More than a number. He's got the special world champion helmet. And now he's going to take the accolades and a raucous reception from the paddock as he comes into pit lane. There is the Gresini Ducati team, and he stops, understandably so, because it might have only been for 1 season and 20 Grand Prix, but the Italian-based team did so much to ignite the fire once again in the belly of Marc Marquez. Fabio Quartararo, yeah, a former MotoGP world champion, comes to offer his congratulations.
Well, ultimately, we're talking about 22 competitors who risk their lives up against each other. They all recognise what Marc Marquez has put into this.
Once again, he completely breaks down as he is mobbed, as he is greeted by the factory Ducati crew. Marco Rigamonti right in the heart of it, his crew chief. An embrace from Gigi Dall'Igna, Gemma Pinto, with the kiss of congratulations. Julie Marquez there, his father as well. Only they know, only they really know, Mark's inner circle, just how brutally tough some of the days in the last 5 years have been. Grazie Ducati. Get a feeling, given the form and the spectacular performances he's produced already this season in 2025, that it's MotoGP title number 7. I think he's going to last if he carries on at this rate. He meets and greets all of his Ducati crew. And Poggiali there on the left-hand side, a 125 250cc world champion. He was a heck of a rider back in the day, wasn't he, Poggiali? And now a rider coach working with Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. Of course, let's not forget Bagnaia. He produced his best race and his best weekend of the season. It will largely be a bit of a supporting role for the Italian as we crown a new world champion. We're taking nothing away from Bagnaia because he was phenomenal here in Japan. Yeah, he can start breathing, he can start relaxing. Claudio Domenicali, I think, is on the phone from Borgo Panigale back in Europe. Of course, the Ducati CEO, 4th rider to win a world title for the Bologna brand. And I don't think this is going to sink in for quite some time. You'll probably be after Valencia, the final Grand Prix of the campaign, when he really does start to process what has been a magical 2025 campaign. And there it is. That's what it's all about. It's all about getting your name on that plaque and then adding it to the Tower of Champions.
Into victory back in Assen, it described him as a winning machine, on board a winning machine. And Marc Marquez, who's one away from a century of Grand Prix victories, yet another accolade that he's on the verge of achieving, as he holds up 9 fingers and thumbs for his 9 World Championships. Today, the 7th in MotoGP. And after 6 years of incredible pain, emotion and rehabilitation, the comeback is complete.
It's going to be a hell of a party somewhere in Japan tonight, that's for sure. Another dominant season as far as Ducati are concerned. That was Marc's 31st podium of the season. 25 wins, 14 in the sprints, 11 Grand Prix, a record point scoring total. Was that Mark just saying that Mama is his Mum Rosa on the phone from back in Europe? I'm sure she is. I'm sure she is also, like so many, overcome. It's a momentous occasion. It's a momentous achievement, isn't it, by Marc? Can't really sort of overstate just what a comeback this has been. He's not a rider too often throughout his career who's really been happy to share his emotions in public. As we mentioned, you need a heart of stone not to be blown away by these scenes. There is Dornan CEO Carmelo Espeleta about to hail the MotoGP hero once again as the World Championship celebrations commence here in Japan.
Muchas gracias. Ahora me acuerdo de la crítica. Chao, chao. Chao, chao. Ya sigo. Gracias. ¿Cómo va? Ya. ¿Cómo va? No me acuerdo. A ver. Ahora sí.
And there you go. That is confirmation of the coronation. The comeback king is back on the throne as Marc Marquez once again adds his name to the Tower of Champions. He is the world champion. Campione del Mundo once again, the 32-year-old Spaniard. What a journey it has been. What a story. You could write 25 books about his season in 2025. Surely there's going to be a movie one day made about this remarkable return to prominence for a rider who just would not take no for an answer. He would not accept that his best days were behind him. You think of when he was coming round from the anaesthetic of that surgery in Minnesota, wondering whether that career-saving surgery had worked, whether he would get moments back like this. There is part of his backroom team, a physio who's been working very, very closely with Marc. Also, moved to tears, I'm not going to lie. I've got a bit of a lump in my throat here in the commentary box as well. Second place in the Japanese Grand Prix, when it really matters. P1 in the World Championship.
Evidently, after a 6-year wait, a little out of practice with applying his plaque to the Champions Tower. He's had plenty of practice over the years. He now takes on the cap of World Champion. More than a number, more than a comeback, and just much more than any ordinary rider, Marc Marquez. He has put his heart and soul into this. Jenna Pinto to his left, who has lived so many of those dark moments with Marc Marquez. Her role central to this Hollywood comeback story for Marc Marquez, who is back on the throne once again. the reference, the gold standard, the greatest on planet Earth in MotoGP.
Great shots from a camera, perfectly positioned inside our new look Tower of Champions. As we hail once again the MotoGP World Champion. It's going to be a hell of a long time to get that smile wiped off the face of Marc Marquez. 126 podium in MotoGP to round out one of the most dominant campaigns we have seen. In Grand Prix history, and we've seen a few. In our proud 76-year story.
The teachers there, more than a title, more than a victory, more than a scar, more than a comeback, more than a bike, more than a number. Marc Marquez, whatever way you cut it, produces one of sport's greatest comeback stories. From the point where he thought his career would be over, his career reaches a new height. Your 2025 MotoGP World Champion, Marc Marquez, speaking to Jack.
Mark, from Jerez 2020 to now 6 long years of pain, of suffering, of sacrifice, but you are MotoGP World Champion again. Can you just describe your emotions looking back on that journey and having completed the greatest comeback in sporting history?
No, it's impossible even to speak. Every time when I don't want to remember what I pass away, just want to enjoy the moment, but it's true that was difficult, was super difficult. But now I'm in pace of myself, how is pardon me, it's okay. So I did a big mistake on my career to come back too early, and then you know, I fight, and I won again. So I'm on pace.
Huge congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
World champion, finding his inner peace, finding the content. Again.
Of the greatest comeback in history against all the odds. The 93 is world champion once again.
That was a very emotional moment, wasn't it, as Marc Marquez spoke to Jack. Let's get a thought. So Joan Mir, his first Honda podium. What a weekend for him. He's down in Parc Ferme.
That must feel very special, your first podium with Honda, the first since 2021 for yourself. It feels like it's been coming, but wow, you must feel amazing after that, especially here in Motegi as well.
Yeah, well, long time without this feeling. So you can believe how happy I am. I think that this arrived in the perfect moment for us. We fought a lot for this. can believe. And you know, everything is worth it for this moment. So thank you so much to the team for the work that they've been doing, for all the effort that they made to give me a competitive bike, and also to all the effort that they made to you know, to help myself in the difficult moments. No, is unbelievable. I'm so happy. So hopefully we can continue like this. That is the most difficult thing. But once we achieve one podium, I think that now we already make it. So we have just to repeat it. So happy.
Congratulations, John.
Yeah, that was an awesome job, wasn't it, by Joan Mir? Congratulations to what a shot. What a shot this is. He has never forgotten his past. He might be looking to the future, more success, Marc Marquez, but this is a wonderful shot as he embraces so many of his former Honda crew, including Santi Hernandez. And there's a real warm embrace with Alberto Puig, who saw Marc's sprint. The race winner, what a weekend. Pole, sprint win and Grand Prix win for Pecco Bagnaia here in Japan. He's with Elliott.
Pecco, the perfect weekend after such a difficult season. That must feel super special. And were you aware of anything going wrong with your machine? We saw smoke coming out of it. Just talk through your emotions after the perfect weekend here in Japan.
I don't want to take out any spotlight from Marc, and he deserves any spotlight today. But in any case, happy. It's just I'm just a little shame that it arrived now. But in any case, happy for the weekend, happy for the performance, and I hope that from now on I will continue in this way, because like this I can fight.
Congratulations, Pecco, on a great weekend.
Fighting talk. Let's hope he can indeed take the fight then to Marc Marquez. Lovely scenes behind the podium here. What an embrace that is. Two Ducati world champions.
They're talking about the smoke there that Marquez was feeling in his face when he was chasing down Pecco Bagnaia in the latter stage of the Grand Prix. Yeah, some fighting talk, but also what a class act Pecco Bagnaia is, who was so humble and so complimentary when Jorge Martin beat him to the World Championship at the end of last season. Today, in terms of the Grand Prix, might well be Pecco Bagnaia's day, but he's not losing sight of who today is really all about.
Non so. Non ci dice, qui. Sotto il straight. Che nel sì, guarda. Meno male. Così oggi che mi squalificavano ero...
Pecco Bagnaia breathing a big sigh of relief as he got to watch his smoking Ducati. He looked over his shoulder and went, GG.
That's the first he found of it.
Thankfully, it did not stop him touring to what was a brilliant victory here in the Japanese Grand Prix. And there was nothing stopping, was there, Marc Marquez from crowning his title here in Japan. No wonder Davide Tardozzi's got a big smile on his face. What a weekend for the factory Ducati squad. Pole for Pecco, a 1-2 in the sprint yesterday, a 1-2 in the Grand Prix, and with the cherry on the top of the cake, Marc Marquez, the 2025 MotoGP World Champion.
Santi Hernandez there congratulating all at Ducati, and it is Gigi Dall'Igna so instrumental, not just in Marc Marquez moving to this squad, but so instrumental in this Ducati odyssey that we have now in MotoGP, which you could argue began here back in 2007 when Casey Stoner won their first MotoGP world title. Goes across Marc Marquez, Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia. That is now 4 in a row for the Bologna boys. So we get set then to welcome our podium finishers, and on a day where we do herald the new world champion, it all feels rather fitting, doesn't it? That 3 MotoGP world champions, 3 of the creme de la creme, the very best in the world, will stand together on top of the podium. Certainly the best technical mind in the world where MotoGP is concerned is Gigi Dall'Igna, who will be part of the celebrations. What a day for Joan Mir. His 4-year wait for a MotoGP podium is over, but the 6-year wait for MotoGP title glory ends now for Marc Marquez. Pecco Bagnaia joins him on the podium, a 2-time world champion in his own right in this great sport that we love. And Pecco Bagnaia has rediscovered his love for MotoGP here this weekend. Ducati, of course, well on course for the Triple Crown. The Teams Championship will surely follow next time out in Indonesia. The Constructors' Championship already clinched. The Riders' Championship secured today, and so much of it is down to that man. In many respects, Gigi Dall'Igna is the reason Marc Marquez has joined Ducati. In so many respects, Marquez is the reason that Gigi Dall'Igna is so successful this year. Joan Mir, 3rd place. It's the 13th MotoGP podium. It's been a long time since the previous ones for him. Marc Marquez, who said, "I am now at peace." The tranquility that comes with being the very best in the world. Gets another trophy to add to his collection. MotoGP podium, number 126. As far as the Grand Prix today is concerned, let's not forget our winner. He has had some dark times too in 2025. But a 2nd pole position of the season, a 1st sprint win, and a 2nd Grand Prix victory of the year. They did not see which way he went, they only saw the smoke. Pecco Bagnaia wins the Japanese Grand Prix.
Everybody, please stand up and take your caps off.
Go the way of his factory Ducati teammate, Spanish superstar Marc Marquez, shining bright once again as the MotoGP world champion. Such special podium celebrations. Ducati once again dominant, as they so often have been. We are clearly living, aren't we, in the Ducati era of the MotoGP World Championship. Soaked in Prosecco is Gigi Dall'Igna. No wonder he's taking a big gulp. Because he has witnessed one of the most dominant campaigns we've seen. The first rider in history, Marc Marquez, to regain the MotoGP World Championship after a 5-year drought. Over 70 months and 300 weeks since he had this special sweet feeling at the Chang International Circuit in Buriram. Yeah, normally he's trying to take on a bit of water after a Grand Prix, just to rehydrate. Then they got ice for the Prosecco. First rider to win the MotoGP World Championship with 2 different manufacturers. And that is a very elite and exclusive club which features icons and legends. Agostini, Lawson, Rossi, Duke, Stoner, and now Marc Marquez. 6 times the MotoGP World Champion for Honda. And now one and counting in the blood red of Ducati. Great weekend as far as Pecco Bagnaia is concerned. I think it's fair to say he looks like he's well and truly back, which is good news for MotoGP fans. As he said in his post-race interview, let's hope that he can start taking the fight once again to Marc Marquez. And with a beaming smile there to the left of Bagnaia, with good reason, Joan Mir. That was the moment. Championship winning checkered flag that Marc Marquez has waited so long to see. Let the tears start flowing for Marc Marquez. That was shortly after he'd watched a story of this great comeback. He said he's trying to enjoy the moment, live in the moment. It's so hard just to ignore the story of the last 5 years as he completes the great comeback. Studying commentary, you sort of think of Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods in the modern era of sport who've been hailed for their return to the top. I think of Muhammad Ali, George Foreman back in the day. Just to be mentioned in the same breath of global superstars just shows what a story Marc Marquez's has been. That's just the start of some special celebrations as he embraces the Tower of Champions, and once again he finds himself and his name right back at the top of the tower. A celebration. Taking the jaw-dropping island of Lombok for round 18 of Pertamina Grand Prix of Indonesia, where we know who our 2025 world champion is.
It is Marc Marquez. The winner today, though, is Pecco Bagnaia. Never really looked back, even though when he did look back, you've seen some smoke coming from his bike. Marc Marquez second and wins the World Championship in style. Joan Mir back on the podium for Honda, his first Honda podium. Benteke fourth from Morbidelli, Alex Marquez, Raul Fernandez and Fabio Quartararo, Zarco ninth from Aldeguer, Bastianini, Binder, Gian Antonio Oliveira, and point for Sonkia Chantra. Pedro Costa, of course, after his excursion, when he was clearly beginning to fade, dropped him all the way down to 17th place. So the simple analysis is this, as you can see on the left of your screens, Marc Marquez is the MotoGP World Champion once again. His lead now over 200 points back to Alex Marquez, who finished 6th today. Pecco Bagnaia now 66 behind Alex Marquez, and potentially back on form. Could he still launch a bid to secure the runner-up spot? waited till just before half distance to make his move on Pedro Acosta. And Acosta began to very quickly run out of grip. Marc Marquez through into second place. Only grow from there as he would lose third place. Juan Mir securing his first Honda podium and the first for the 2020 World Champion in 4 years. Despite smoke billowing from his factory Ducati, Pecco Bagnaia didn't have any other real problems, didn't affect his pace at all as he continued to lead the rest trailing in his smoke. Costa heading off on his own journey into the gravel trap, which dropped him out of the points as Alex Marquez was on the verge of taking 6th place from him. Despite the ominous trails behind him, Pecco Bagnaia secured a comfortable victory. The best weekend of his 2025 season, but one of the very best days of Marc Marquez's life. After all of the pain and sacrifice, the tortuous hours and days rehabilitating from arm surgeries, from diplopia, and so much more, Marc Marquez has completed his comeback story. Marc Marquez is the 2025 MotoGP World Champion. afternoon of drama, of glory and high emotion here at the Mobility Resort Motegi. Marc Marquez has done it. Jack up here alongside myself, Lewis Sotheby, trying to put into some sort of context what we've witnessed today.
I mean, all you have to do is just look at the emotion, the outpouring of emotion that came from Marc once it completed it. It's so often the most stone-focused, the most laser-focused rider on the MotoGP grid, and that all washed away. If any of you for a second wanted to question the pain, the suffering, the sacrifice that Marc has been through, the depths of despair that he's had to stare directly in the face from Jerez 2020 through to today, then that proves just how dark things were at times for Marc Marquez. When he says, I was questioning whether to retire or not, he means it. Retirement was a genuine possibility over the past 6 years, but thank God he didn't, because we have just seen the greatest comeback story in any sport officially completed. And I thought the karaoke would start later on tonight, but Marc certainly has the eye of the tiger today.
Well, Marc Marquez is the world champion, finished second today to his teammate Pecco Bagnaia. So many positive things to talk about with Ducati Corsa Sporting Director Mauro Gressilli. First of all, many congratulations. The World Championship secured. Give us your emotions on what is an incredible day for yourself and Ducati.
Just for information, I'm missing the celebration. You know what I mean? So no problem. So honestly speaking, it's very difficult to find the words, because every time was the first time for me. I spent a couple of times that we won some championship, but every time, as I told you, is the new emotion, honestly speaking.
Of course, we've seen Marc Marquez at such a high level throughout his entire MotoGP career. But do you think this season we've seen the very best version we've ever seen of Marc Marquez?
I think so. Because seeing him on the red bike was like a superhero. I think that the best season ever for Marc.
Was there ever any doubt in bringing Marc to Ducati for 2024?
Yes, he won a lot. No, I'm joking. No, it's okay. No, any doubts. It was a difficult choice at the beginning, because, you know, it was a difficult moment in the middle of last year. But we did a very good choice. We are so proud and so happy to have him in the box.
From a human side as well, you have spent a lot of time with Marc with the garage doors down. We could see the emotion. Just tell us how much this will mean to him today and what he's been through this year to get to the top of MotoGP again.
You know, from women's point of view, I would like to say this was a surprise, but not true, because when I spoke last year with Nadia from Gresini, she said, you will get in love with him because he's like a superstar. It was like this, because from the beginning he was really part of the family. From the beginning he knew perfectly all the name for the guys that are working with him, so it's fantastic.
In terms of the way he managed this weekend, he did say yesterday that
this. And back in brilliant fashion this weekend. Pekka, what a weekend here in Japan. Pole position with an all-time lap record yesterday. Victory in the sprint, leading every lap. Victory in the Grand Prix today, leading every lap. Do you feel you are back?
Like we said 2 seconds ago, never left. It's true that the results from this season are a bit strange, and what happened this weekend is just something that arrived in a moment when we finally found the way. I'm very happy about today, but I'm also very angry about today about this weekend, because maybe we could have done this maybe after 1 or 2 Grand Prix, but it's something that sometimes things are not going in the direction you want, and it's difficult to understand some changing. So we just struggled a bit during the season, but finally the test in Misano gave us the chance, the possibility to finally try things that have helped me a lot. Some specific that have helped me also in other situations. So super happy about it. Finally we found it. Maybe next Grand Prix I will be back in 20 positions, but I just want to enjoy the moment. Say a huge congratulations to Mark, that is super deserving this title. It was unbeatable this season, and see if I can fight with him in the next 5 races.
2 weeks ago, in front of your home crowd at Misano, it looked like a crisis. We saw you struggling in the sprint, you crashed out at the Grand Prix, you looked so frustrated, so angry, so upset. 2 weeks later, it's a completely different story. So, I mean, can you tell us what changed in 2 weeks?
There is Gigi there, so
I knew you were going to say that.
He really knows. Honestly, I'm just a rider, and I'm just here to push. Sometimes when I push, I'm 20. Sometimes when I push, I win. So not only a matter of me.
I don't know if you were aware at any point in that Grand Prix, but our hearts skipped a few beats when we saw the smoke coming out of the exhaust. I mean, talk us through that. I mean, were you worried? Were you aware of what was going on?
I was not knowing anything. I was just not understanding why in the last 3-4 laps I was out of power in some corners. I was saying things never had before this kind of feeling. But finally I didn't get any tension. If in case I was getting one, I was maybe the more upset moment in my career. So better like this.
Just finally, we'll finish on your teammate, Mark. We always knew you knew how strong he was going to be when he moved into the factory, the Ducati project, but just how impressed have you been with just how strong he has been, and how tough is he going to be in the future?
Mark did amazing things this season. He was starting in a fantastic way. Then he had like 2 or 3 races where he needed to calm down a bit, and then he was a machine for the rest of the season. So congratulations to him, congratulations to his part of the team. But it could have been fantastic to have fighted with him a bit. But we have the chance now. Right now, I just want to say congratulations to him, and thanks, because I learned a lot of things this season.
It's what we all want to see, 2 great champions fighting each other at the front. Go, congratulations, an awesome weekend. Well done. Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations to Pekka Bagnaia today's.
Title success in 2019, we can finally say once again, Marc Marquez, MotoGP World Champion. Mark, how good does that feel?
Oh, it's difficult to explain because I have super strange feeling. Of course I feel happy, but first feeling is like I feel in peace with myself. I mean, the first sentence that I say in Spanish TV is like, wow, I was mark against mark during 5 years.
mark against injury, but especially about mental side was difficult. Many people around me helps a lot, and I will not say any name because without them, they already know who they are, but without them was impossible. I took super difficult decisions, but you know, I closed the circle in the perfect way in Japan. When I won many championships, my Ducati team was in the podium, my Honda team was in the podium, so perfect day.
Almost written in the stars, it feels like. Just talk us through your feelings, Mark, on the last lap and that, I'm sure, explosion of emotion when you crossed the finish line. I mean, that was probably an experience, a sensation you've never had before in your career.
Yeah, because normally I never cry in my World Championships when I won, but now I don't want to think about what I pass away. I mean, if I think a bit, just I start to feel bad, you know, because you know, the human, one of the good things of the humans, like you can't forget the bad moments. So it's difficult to forget because still today I feel it some days, but dream comes true. I mean, the most difficult challenge of my career has done.
Just shows that you should never give up. You should always fight as you have done, Mark. I mean, just talk us about this last couple of years. You left Honda, you joined Ducati, you got yourself the factory seat. I mean, it's been a fairy tale dream season. It's like 25 wins, I think 31 podiums. As you said, dreams do come true.
Yeah, as you know, and we talked many times that on that journey, because Olivier was a long, very long journey. We took some difficult, important decisions, but always follow my instincts because the people around me helped a lot to take that decisions, but just to give me the chance to follow my instincts. So I did it. I tried. I didn't care if it was failure or victory, or I mean, if I fail, I fail, but if I don't try, I will fail. So I try and we achieve it.
Was there any doubts? 1% of doubt that you would be one day standing here again as the world champion?
I mean, since this year, was difficult to understand if I was able to fight again for the world championship. Was target by target. When you are, you know, always I try to point the maximum, but believe me, when you are super deep underground, you cannot point in the biggest claim. So just first of all, last year I enjoy again, I take again the pace, confidence with myself, and this year I will start in the best way possible. We manage, and today also I'm happy because we manage our emotions.
Mark, it is absolutely amazing once again to say you are the MotoGP World Champion after everything that you've been through. I think you've been an inspiration to so many MotoGP fans all around the world. So all I can say is congratulations once again and enjoy the celebrations.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all that 93s that helps me right now and in the deepest moment 2-3 years ago. Thank you very much.
And allow us to add our congratulations to that. Marc Marquez is the 2025 MotoGP World Champion. Then for what's going to come up next is Jack's enjoying Back to Black in the background. Back to the business for us. In a week's time, we're off to Indonesia. In terms of what's coming up next, 2 press conferences coming your way if you're watching us live. Soon we'll hear from Marc Marquez in his own press conference. But coming up first, let's hear from our winner today, Pecco Bagnaia, and third place, Joan Mir, back on the podium today.
We're off to do some karaoke.
We're off to do some karaoke. We'll see you in Indonesia. The press conference is coming up next.
Apportimamos 6 segundos.
Sí, apportimamos. Sí.
And we have, of course, winner do the double back in business for Francesco Bagnaia with and also plenty to celebrate. A first podium since, you were just saying, I think, Algarve 2021 for you. That's what it was. And the first factory Honda podium since here for Mark in 2023 as well. Congratulations, Joan Mir from Honda HRC Castrol. Pecco, of course, is the winner. We'll start with you. I mean, there's so much to talk about. We'll keep it short and sweet to let you enjoy this. You said you didn't want to steal Mark's spotlight, but there's enough for everyone today, and you deserve some. Incredible weekend. What's made the difference? How does it feel? And could you tell that we could see all those little puffs of smoke giving us heart attacks on the TV?
For me now, I deserve a nice beer.
We would agree.
So maybe my team can provide to me. We have a nice sponsor, so.
I was going to say an Estrella Galicia 0-0, of course, right?
Yeah. But no, in any case, apart jokes, super happy about the performance of this weekend. Angry and happy and angry. Because honestly, if I was finding that solution before, maybe it could have been a different champion. But today I literally enjoyed a lot. I enjoyed a lot from the test in Misano. I was able to push, I was able to control. And races like this are the ones I prefer. So starting well, try to push from the start and just then managing. But more happy than this is difficult. And like you said, I don't want to take the spotlight to Mark because he did an amazing job this season. And nothing more. The smokes, I was not knowing it. I just felt a bit of less performance in the last 4 laps. But in some exit of the corners, but the lap times were there. So happy to don't get any sanction, because in case I could have been much more angry.
You can imagine, no, it seems all drama-free in the end, except for the roar of "oh" from the media center when the first one went up. But Joan, of course, another incredible thing to celebrate for you as well today. Lots of happy people on the podium today for different reasons. It's been a while since you've been up here. You've had some incredible bad luck, a few mistakes as well, but you've really put it together this weekend. It's been a fantastic overall performance, qualifying front row, yesterday just off the podium, today on it. How does that feel for you and for Honda?
Well, I think you explained very well. The reality is that has been a very difficult period for me. From the day that we decide to move to online in a difficult period, we already know that a long time without maybe good results could happen, but I could not imagine that amount of time. The reality is that has been a super difficult period. I just never give up, trying to always, not always, but sometimes try to see the positive things from the things that was happening that were happening to us, and you know, now you can imagine how nice is the taste of this podium. I just enjoy every lap of this race, fighting with these guys. That was a long time that I was not doing it, and yeah, just super happy for the team. They deserve a lot. Also here in Japan, I cannot think a better place to do our comeback, you know, and yeah, just super happy for Honda. Thank you to them. They deserve it.
And you should watch the images of Santi in the box.
Long time also without seeing the image of Santi in the box.
Congratulations to both of you. Guys in the room, if you've got any questions for Pecco and Joan before we welcome Mark to the World Champion press conference, let us know.
Hello, question for Pecco, Manuel Pesino. Pecco, the change from one Grand Prix to another has been more than massive. What has been the key? What did you do? What has looked? Can you explain what happened?